Nutrients, organic matter, bugs. Whether you consider yourself a beef producer, a vegetable grower, or an arable farmer, we all need to farm bugs to unlock the nutrients that exist in our soils. Firstly, organic matter. The scales are largely out of balance between the tonnes of crop and residue being removed and what is being used to replace it. With around 30 tonnes of material being removed by an arable farmer in a 4-year rotation, it is necessary to intervene. Organic matter acts like a sponge, providing air spaces which aid water movement and a bounce-back layer which resists compaction. This precious layer is the soil's store cupboard. It holds water and nutrients which plants can draw on as and when they need them. Organic matter provides an environment for soil microbiology. These are the most abundant organisms on Earth, and that which the whole food chain balances on. This microbiology comprises of bacteria, fungi, protozoa and nematodes. Beneficial species of these microbes exist in aerobic soils and digest and release nutrients for plants to use. Their life cycles alone build organic matter. Good microbes are natural soil police, attacking the bad ones that thrive in anaerobic soil conditions, which are created by compaction and waterlogging. To know how healthy your soil is, sniff it. The better it smells, the healthier it is. The best soil I've smelt on my world tour belongs to John Eichard. John farms in an intensive arable area of southern Queensland, Australia. John's aim was to need fewer lorries delivering to his farm and more taking his produce away. John strived to create a hands-off, balanced and sustainable system. He achieved it by reverting his intensive arable system to a pastoral one more native to his area. John established a seed mix containing grasses, broadleaf and legume species that fix enough nitrogen to sustain the mix. John waits for the seed to shed before strip grazing with sheep and cattle, allowing the action of the animals' hooves to do the cultivations. All John has to do is move the animals and the water and maintain the fences. John is recycling his nutrients, building his organic matter, and his bugs, like his livestock, are thriving. This is an extremely impressive system, and for those of us not quite ready for it, there will always be the need for human intervention with crop nutrition. There are in fact 9, not 6, macronutrients required by all plants. The greatest of these, the meganutrients, are oxygen, carbon and hydrogen. We assume our crops and bugs can get enough of these from the air and water entering the plant through the leaves and roots. This chart shows how important these 3 nutrients are to a wheat plant compared to the 6 macronutrients we are so concerned with, being nitrogen, potassium, calcium, sulfur, phosphorus and magnesium. Anything which limits the air spaces in the soil, such as compaction from tractors with high axle loads or poaching from livestock, will decrease the air spaces and create anaerobic conditions, limiting the amount of the nutrients the plant can obtain. The art of soil husbandry is being lost in the UK and across Europe in favour of forcing cultivations by throwing more horsepower and weight at the job to create a tilth on top, regardless of what damage we may be doing beneath. Once we've established the meganutrients in our soils, we need to establish our macro supplies by soil, tissue and sap testing. A crop can only grow properly if all 9 of these elements are present. If one is severely deficient, it will limit the potential of the crop. Simply chucking more nitrogen at it will not solve the problem. Plants, as humans, need a healthy, balanced diet. We know a human can exist without all 5 of the food groups, as a plant can exist without all 6 of the macronutrients. However, we also know that human is more susceptible to illness. The same is true for plants. Nutrient deficiencies in plants make them more susceptible to insect and disease attack, require more pesticides to correct the problem. Unless deficiencies are severe, micronutrients, manganese, iron, zinc, boron, copper and molybdenum can be left until the mega and macronutrients have been provided. This is a fine-tuning. which in a healthy, balanced soil, the microbiology should be able to provide. So, NOBs, nutrients, organic matter, bugs. Hopefully, I've demonstrated to you all just how important they are to all of us. How do we move forward? The balancing of mega, macro, and micronutrients in a soil or crop is extremely detailed and involved if done properly, as the chemical elements that make up the nutrients interact with each other, making the abundance of one result in the lock-up of another. We're doing our industry a disservice by trying to simplify it with the RB209 and FACS qualification. The best way to buffer your crops and soils is by increasing your organic matter. Around the world, I saw many farmers addressing this. There's no subsidy available for doing it, and no big shiny piece of machinery you can buy that will simply do it for you. It's a case of rolling up your sleeves and admitting your forefathers were right. The easiest thing we can do is return crop residues to the soil, not bale them and burn them in a power station. It is vital this point is considered when tenancy and shared farming tenders are constructed. What seems an attractive addition to the bottom line has huge costs in the long run. Short-term crops such as mustard, beans or buckwheat can be established on land that is to stand idle for significant periods of time, then cultivated in, add to the humus in the soil for the bugs to begin recycling. Adding bulky fertilisers such as animal manure or shredded green waste will also address both organic matter and nutrient deficiencies. It is currently very fashionable to use various forms of sewage, which as far as a plant or microbe is concerned, is a great option. I just have personal concerns about the long-term effects of adding heavy metals and hormones to the soils which grow our food crops. Even better than adding raw manures or wastes is to compost them first. Done correctly, with the right mix and turned regularly, a 10-tonne a hectare dressing of good quality compost can provide a total nutrient requirement for a 10-tonne crop of wheat with no additional fertiliser. This shows the power of bugs. They are busy at work in these waste heaps. If nurtured and encouraged, these bugs can create a highly profitable product. So if you're sitting there thinking this all seems a lot of effort, excuse me, a bit of funky video mixing it up for me. If you're sitting there thinking this all seems like a lot of effort, consider how much effort this farmer in South Australia has to put into growing crops on his non-wetting sandy soils, a soil which actively repels water. It simply sits on the soil surface until it evaporates. Farmers on these soils are making a living with no government subsidisation to fall back on. These farmers' attention to soil and crop nutrition is clearly vital to their survival. Meeting farmers like this is humbling and made me realise how much more resourceful I could be. So where has my war on fertiliser use efficiency begun? As many farmers have, we've mapped our soil for P, K, Mg and pH, which enabled us to variably apply the corrective fertilisers. After the cost of buying the GPS and having the fields mapped, we saved £50 a hectare. In conjunction, I carried out many leaf tissue tests which have helped me evaluate fertiliser products and assess the nutrients requiring correction. Addressing this has cost me £18 a hectare. I've completed my first season running an N sensor to make variable rate growth regulator, fungicide and nitrogen applications according to the crop's requirement and a highly specific recommendation made by me. This has resulted in far fewer kilos of nitrogen a hectare being applied than would have done from the standard RB209 recommendation. After the hire of the N sensor, this has saved me £18 a hectare. So in my first year, I've saved £50 a hectare with no yield detriment. Over a 600 hectare farm, this equates to £30,000. This year, combining starter fertilisers with the absolute programme of the N sensor, I hope to double the saving. I'm trying different approaches to building my farm's organic matter, depending on their location and local product availability. I have imported shredded green waste to compost straight and to mix with animal manures before composting. I'm growing green manures wherever possible before crop establishment. Once things below ground have improved and my soil has more resilience, I hope to make further moves to reduce cultivations and increase direct drilling when conditions allow, emulating systems I saw on farms in South America. As far as the wider industry is concerned, the art of soil husbandry is being lost. Soil courses delivered as part of an agricultural qualification need reviewing to include a more holistic approach with greater discussion on soil mechanics, when and how the soil is worked, and what the goals are when the cultivator leaves the yard. In the UK, we searched for a one-size-fits-all approach, which has resulted in us relying on a simplistic document, the RV209, which we have supplemented with practical experience from knowledgeable advisors. The current FACS qualification is insufficient. It may be more practical to introduce a further level to encourage real expertise in the subject. We need to establish a thorough and holistic soil, crop nutrition and husbandry qualification that furnishes the graduate with a real understanding of the subject, allowing advisors to have confidence in restructuring farm practice rather than simply adding extra inputs. And finally, this short statement might help to explain why it has taken me to highlight these industry issues to you today. Thank you for listening, and thank you to my sponsors, the Nuffield Farming Scholarships Trust, the Clan Trust and the Bogs Farmer Group.